Welcome to Underrated Democracy.
It is enormously important. I mean, at the end of the day, the world is moving. Countries around the world, whether it's Japan, South Korea, China, the United States, and various countries in Western Europe, are looking to actually get ahead in terms of the various opportunities that actually exist in the context of the transition to a low-carbon future. That is not exclusively electricity and hydrogen. It's critical minerals and batteries and electric vehicles and a whole range of other things. But certainly, this is an enormous economic opportunity for Newfoundland, Labrador, and for Nova Scotia. It's the reason why both premiers are pushing so hard to actually see this move forward. It's thousands of jobs. It's economic prosperity for communities and for Indigenous communities. I mean, my goodness, it just boggles the mind that the Conservative Party is opposing something like this. I never thought I would see the day when a political party is fully opposed to an economic enabling piece of legislation that is fully supported by the provinces, including the Conservative government of Nova Scotia.
Thank you, Minister. Right on time. We'll now go to Mr. Small for 5 minutes. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'll let the Honourable Minister know that the Conservative Party opposes this bill because Bill C-49 breaks the spirit of the original Atlantic Accord, so much so that the Canadian Association of Petroleum and
Point of order.
I'm pleased that I humoured my colleague from Labrador.
Mr. Small, I'll ask you to hold 1 sec. We have a point of order from Mr. Angus.
So the statement that they're officially opposing Bill C-49 is just his opinion, or is that the Conservative Party?
So
it helps us understand where we're going with these guys.
So colleagues, hold on, colleagues. Once again, I'll encourage all colleagues to make sure your point of order is a point of order relevant to the conversation, and not make sure we don't use it as debate, but I would also ask all members to stay in line with their questioning. So, Mr. Small, back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I hope that time goes back onto my time, respectfully. So we oppose this legislation. We voted for it. Obviously, we oppose it. And we oppose it because the Canadian Association of Petroleum Producers wrote you a letter, and I have it right here. I don't know if you read it. Did you read it in August 8th? Did you read this letter from CAP? I'm sure I did. I certainly hope you did, because CAP is concerned that your Section 56 of this bill is going to shut down the oil and gas industry off Labrador. So will you, or off Newfoundland and Labrador, will you remove Section 56 from this bill to address their concerns?
So this bill was negotiated in tandem with the government of Newfoundland and Labrador, which obviously is a significant participant in enabling the offshore energy industry. It is something that we and they are fully comfortable with, and we see the bill as standing as it is. Obviously, subject to the discussion that this committee will have.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. How did you, Mr. Minister, I'd like to know how you hoodwinked the provinces in Atlantic Canada to support this legislation. How did you pull the wool over their eyes?
Well, my goodness, I have a lot more respect for Premier Furey and Premier Houston than perhaps you do. At the end of the day, both of them see this as an enormous economic opportunity. Both of this came to us to actually ask that this be done. Both of them engaged in negotiations on this. So, I mean, I can't speak for them, but I am obviously very shocked that you would actually see them as being that kind of weak in their ability to actually negotiate on behalf of their province.
I don't think they're weak leaders, but Section 56 gives you the unilateral power with the unconstitutional Bill C-69 to create marine protected areas so that you can pull development and exploration permits without an environmental impact study. In 2023, we saw a record 37 parcels of leases that were put forward off the east coast of Newfoundland and Labrador. How many of those were actually bought?
So, Industrial development is important. So is the
This is
protection
an
of
easy one.
biodiversity. Biodiversity is in decline
many
around
were
the
bought?
world. It's important that we are actually protecting particularly sensitive areas. I'm not sure why the Conservative Party doesn't believe in the protection of biodiversity. But at the end of the day, you cannot, under this bill, the federal government can't unilaterally create a marine protected area or a marine refuge. It has to be done in conjunction with the province and territory.
Well, how many, you didn't answer the question, Mr. Minister. How many blocks were sold off the east coast of Newfoundland and Labrador in 2023? How many parcels were sold? Out of a record 37 that were offered up, how many?
How many?
I would ask none were sold.
Zero. Bingo.
This? Zero?
After 8 years.
It was zero.
Your government.
How many $1 million worth of leases were sold in the Gulf of Mexico in that same year?
I do not know the answer to that question.
The answer? $382 million worth of leases were sold in the Gulf of Mexico. Why would these same oil and gas producers trip over themselves to drill and explore in the Gulf of Mexico and completely walk away from Newfoundland and Labrador's offshore oil and gas industry?
Look, businesses actually make decisions based on the development of the business case, and they would make their own decisions. I'm not going to put myself in the mind of an ExxonMobil or a Shell or anybody else. At the end of the day, they will make their decisions based on the overall economics of the project and their view about the future of energy.
So in June, after this legislation was tabled, there were teams from 10 major oil and gas producers that were poring over the data, and that was tabulated for all these 37 parcels of land, and they were preparing their bids. Industry sources tell me that there were 10 companies preparing bids. When this legislation was tabled, the interest waned. Why are you trying to kill Newfoundland and Labrador's offshore oil and gas industry with the fear and the instability that this legislation is presenting to our producers?
Okay, I mean, that's just ridiculous. I mean, at the end of the day, companies make decisions. If you actually look at the prior years to 2023, and I'm not sure if you've looked at that, there were significant purchases of bids. At the end of the end of the day, this bill makes no significant changes to the process with respect to oil and gas. And if you think it does, you should go back and read the bill.
So thank you, Minister Wilkinson, for your responses. We'll now go to Mr. Sorbrera for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair, and welcome, Minister, to the Natural Resources Committee and the first day back in this session